Hello, my name is Pastor Shafer, the senior pastor here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Each week I speak to an interesting person from around the community, around the nation, even around the world about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. My guest this week is Pastor Dick Hoehn, who is an author, a theologian, a professor, and a community activist, and has a new book he wants to talk about, but we've got lots of things to talk about. Welcome, Dick. I'm glad you're with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your interesting series. I'm honored to be part of it. I've watched many of them and thrilled to be here.
Glad you could be there. Dick, in your materials, you describe yourself as a citizen activist. Tell our viewers what that means.
Yeah, all of us who are legal residents of a country are technically citizens. We are part of the political process by definition. Thus, when they do the census and so forth, they're counting people, citizens. But a citizen activist is a person who takes their citizenship seriously by voting, by promoting certain policies that are in their interest and consonant with their values, that express their faith, that express their hope in terms of this particular topic of the series. They are people who get out and do something. They don't just sit there and receive the benefits of being part of a political community. They are active in shaping that community. They take it serious. They take their citizenship seriously. They vote, but they do more than vote. They staff polling places. They form neighborhood organizations. They are involved with the local, if there's one in their community, for example, they're involved with the local IAF projects, the organizing projects that go on in many communities. They're active in nonprofit organizations, for example, to lobby for policies and programs that help those who are most vulnerable and express their values.
You speak about that a lot in your new book, which is over your shoulder on our picture now. We Carry the Fire. Tell us about the book, please.
Yeah, I was working, I left teaching seminary and I was working at Bread for the World. Bread for the World does not feed anyone directly. Bread for the World is a citizens organization of people around the country. There's an organizer in California who's a good friend. People around the country who write letters, emails, phone calls, opinion editorials, visit their members of Congress when they're back home, and then sometimes come to Washington to advocate for policies that affect poor and hungry people, both in the United States and then abroad, because U.S. decisions about foreign assistance have an effect on people in other parts of the world. So I was working initially as a grassroots organizer, and if I may, I'm going to read just one short paragraph. I met Vivian, who with her husband made jelly, raised their children, milked their goats, convened a local group of people to learn about legislation and write letters to Congress. Back then, this was letters when I got started. This was quite a while ago. She convinced the very conservative newspaper editor of her Northwest city to include an article that supported funding for the WIC program, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. She met with her member of Congress when he was in town, and she flew cross country to visit him in his Washington office. There are people like that who every day and all the time, they have the same kids. They have the same dance lessons. They have the same swimming meets that they go to for their children. The PTA, their church functions, their church social functions. They volunteer at things like various social, church-related or secular nonprofits, food banks, food pantries. And yet on top of all that, they find time to work to influence the policies of the U.S. Congress. And Congress needs to hear from people. They need to know, what do the people want? And not just through polls, but through louder voices who express those values. So that got me interested. I was seeing people like this every day, and I thought, wow, this is a spiritual activity. This isn't just do good. This is an expression of the fullness of the human spirit working to help people who are poor and hungry. I mean, what greater calling is there than to follow one's own faith, one's own hope that one can make a difference? I mean, to do this, you really have to believe that your life can make a difference. Otherwise, it's just wasted time. It's just blowing in the wind, or blowing against the wind, even worse. So I was so totally inspired by these people that it occurred to me that this activity, not just good intentions, not just reading nice passages about justice and peace, those are important, but people who actually do something with their lives. I was just blown away. Frankly, I was really, really impressed. And so it seemed to me that that was a spiritual activity. So I thought about it and wrote about it, wrote and rewrote, and then edited for 30 years. And the upshot is We Carry the Fire. And the subtitle is Family and Citizenship as Spiritual Calling. I said, what are the deepest well springs of our heart from which spirituality should come? Well, you could say, what are people willing to die for? I'm a lifelong Lutheran, but how many Lutherans would die if they were faced with the choice of being Lutheran or Methodist, or Lutheran or Episcopalian? I don't know. But people will, in fact, die for their families. They will sacrifice their lives for their families. So I thought family, and then I thought citizenship. Clearly, people die for their country. I mean, we saw it just the other day again in Afghanistan. People risk their lives for their country. So a spirituality of doing that helps families and strengthens democracy.
Wonderful. If people want to get a copy of your book, how can they do that?
It's on Amazon or a bookstore. Any bookstore can order it. It was published by Church Publishing Incorporated, which is the official publishing house of the Episcopal Church.
Right.
So you can also get it from them.
All right. Well, we always recommend local bookstores. If you go to your local bookstore and ask them to look up "We Carry the Fire" or your last name Hoehn, they'll find it, and that's the way to find it on Amazon too. But we love local bookstores whenever we can. So
yeah, and it is available in Kindle. It is not available, unfortunately, in Audible.
But it's on Kindle Kook. Wonderful. That's great. And you were speaking about Bread for the World, which is also dear to my heart. If our viewers do not know about Bread for the World, it's easy to find them because somehow they got the website bread.org.
Isn't that amazing?
They were early on. They must have been early believers. There's no question to get that. So
right.
If you go to bread.org, you'll find out about the Citizens Lobby, which started, frankly, from women in church basements, around the country years ago. And if you're a fan of Rick Steves on public television, who is a very active Lutheran, he is also, I believe he's on the board of Bread for the World. And he promotes Bread for the World on his PBS television programs all the time. So bread.org is an organization that is worth looking up for sure.
Yeah, the first two, the Bread has only had 3 executive directors. The first one was Art Simon, who's the brother of the late Paul Simon, Senator Paul Simon,
Right.
and came out of the Missouri Synod tradition. And then the second executive director has been David Beckman, who just left the position last year, actually, the end of last year. And Beckman is an active Lutheran and ELCA, and was previously with the World Bank. That was, and served a term in Africa, no, it was India. He and his wife served a missionary term in India. So we've had really fine leadership.
Yes, yes, I know a lot about the organization too, so that's wonderful. Well, Dick, you've certainly hinted at this, but let's get to the point, more directly to the point of the program. I'm sure this is the work that you find hope in, but where do you find hope today? And when you get up in the morning, what gives you hope for the day?
Well, what gives me hope for the day? My children. I have 5 children. They are gay and straight and black and white and male and female, and 2 grandchildren, and they give me hope. The sun, the fact that the sun continues to rise, and we can still see it if it's not too cloudy there in California from the
Wildfire blocked, yeah.
Yeah. And again, the massive number of people who care in their volunteer work, in hospices, in just all aspects of life. People who get up in the morning and say, today I'm going to make a difference. And they may not say that out loud, but in their mind, they're saying, I am the kind of person who is going to make a difference in someone else's life. And I think also then our religious traditions give me hope. They're certainly having hard times these days. Churches are closing, and a lot of very good clergy who are talented, capable people, nonetheless, are struggling to keep their congregation together. But the religious community, broadly speaking, Lutheran, but also others, the religious community, I believe, has carried the best of human values forward over the centuries. And I talk about that in the book. There's a chapter title that says, Religions Curate, Celebrate, and Disseminate the Human Drama. And then there are 2 chapters about, okay, we've done a lot of bad stuff, and we should just admit it up front. I think we don't always admit to our contributions to racism, sexism, and a lot of oppressive practices. And I think we should do more lamenting about our shortcomings. But at the same time, I think we should celebrate what we bring to the human table. And that is, we bring values, we bring hope, we bring forgiveness, we bring the message of peace, we bring the message of justice, we bring the message of personal and social transformation. And so in chapter 8, I list reasons, a place to celebrate life with others. That's, to me, one of the things church is. Congregations bring moral socialization. Where would we be without the moral socialization of religious institutions? They have moral guidelines that are produced by various denominations. They shape our social engagement. And although there's a lot of criticism, there's just a huge amount of servanthood that flies under the radar. It's because it's this person this day and these three people the next day, and on and on and on. But you know, the media has trouble catching that stuff. It's just everyday stuff. It's so taken for granted. But if you subtracted it out of our culture and out of our society, there would be huge collapse
That's
of
right.
institutions.
That's right. No question about that. That we could talk about that one for hours, Dick, because that's so true. And thank you. Well, thank you for being with us today on Hope Matters, Dick. Our guest today has been the Reverend Richard Hoehn, who is an author, an activist, a professor, a retired ELCA pastor, and has a new book called We Carry the Fire, which you can order from your local bookstore or find on Amazon. Dick, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thanks, first of all, just for cueing me in about the series so that I can watch the other ones, but especially then for the invitation this morning. Good to be with you.
Thank you. This has been Hope Matters, a production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church here in Santa Monica, California. I'm Pastor Eric Shafer, the senior pastor here at Mount Olive. We are glad that you're with us and watch each week. We have a new program each Wednesday, so watch for our next one. And we produce these programs because we believe that hope matters, and we believe in a God of hope.
Amen.